So if we're planning for Medicaid eligibility and we're thinking about gifting or transferring assets, I think it's important to consider the differences between gifting or transferring money or property to children or other natural persons versus transferring assets to a trust. So obviously it's easier and maybe more convenient and more directly in accordance with your estate plan to transfer money or property to children or to other family members. But there we need to take into consideration a number of issues. One of them, of course, is integrity, but for most people we get past that pretty easily. On the other hand, we need to recognize that once we transfer money or property to a child, it's their money or property. You may be thinking they're just holding it for you, but to the rest of the world, it's theirs. So if they incur a liability, your money is at risk. If they get divorced, your money is at risk. If they predecease you, your money is in their estate. So these are the risks that are involved here that we can't avoid. They're not easy or even possible to predict. Now, if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. That works for Medicaid. But there is an alternative that I think many people find safer and more prudent, and that's to think about creating a trust. So what is a trust exactly? A trust is another person. Legally, it is another person. Not a natural person, but an entity like a corporation. When we have a trust, it is an agreement between the person creating the trust, called the grantor, and the person who is going to operate the trust or manage the trust, called the trustee. When you create a trust, you'll probably name your children, your close friend, your partner, someone who you have confidence has your best interests in mind, and that's the person who will manage your trust. So the idea of the trust is when you transfer assets to that entity, those assets no longer belong to you. So if you have reduced the assets in your name to the Medicaid eligibility level, you can get Medicaid, and the assets in that trust are protected and can be held. And of course, trusts are not incurring liabilities, they're not getting divorced, they don't die, they don't have any of those risks that apply to natural persons. So the trust that we use in elder law planning will accomplish a number of objectives at the same time. First of all, as we've been discussing, the trust will facilitate Medicaid eligibility. Secondly, the trust will contain your estate plan. It will say where the assets go when you die. But with the important difference from a will or a situation where there is no will but there are assets in your name, here we have no court intervention. There's no probate or administration. So that will be a big relief and a big savings to your heirs and beneficiaries. Nobody will have to go to court. Also, the trust will preserve, for the benefit of your heirs and your family and your beneficiaries, in many cases an important tax advantage. The assets that have appreciated in value during your lifetime that normally would be subject to capital gain tax, that appreciation will avoid capital gain tax, because the people who inherit from the trust or receive distributions from the trust upon your death will receive a step up in tax basis, and all of those assets, the appreciation will not be subject to tax.